Hey guys, it's Bethany Wallace. Today I'm going to just provide a little bit of additional thought or food for thought, I guess, on the topic of in an interview setting, like what is too much transparency? Is there such a thing as too much transparency for the candidate? Should you disclose just without discretion? Or should you use great discretion and really hold a lot of things tight to your chest? And I recently wrote an article about this for Lenza. Lenza is a job board, if you aren't familiar with them. And they have some really great content on their site written by people like me. So you should definitely check it out. And I'll put a link in this post to that article on Lenza's site. So that you can sort of read the pre-thoughts to this video. But so I just wanted to follow up with this because it's something that's sort of like on another stage that I didn't really address in the article. And that is what to do about disclosing super sensitive information that is really important to you. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples and these are recent examples from me working with college students and working with clients who are job seekers, and even from friends I have who are just job seeking and run ideas by me. So one sensitive issue that was recently brought up to me, and it was a question of like, okay, I am transgender and I don't know if it's beneficial to me or not to disclose that during the interview process. Is it appropriate? Is it ever appropriate? Should I put pronouns on my resume? Should I put my pronouns on LinkedIn? Should I even bring it up at all? Or should I just say nothing and unless I'm asked or whatever? And so I just talked to this candidate, and this person is looking for a job. And I told them, like, they have to make that. Those are decisions. I hate to say this, but there's a lot of decisions like that when you are trying to determine which sensitive information about yourself to disclose, when you have to make that decision yourself. I can't tell you do it or don't do it. I don't feel like ethically I can tell someone that and like just give them flat out, like, no matter what, do this, black or white information about that, because we're talking about something that is impactful to you as the job seeker or candidate. It could potentially make or break whether or not you get a job. And so, like, one thing that we talked about, a couple of things we discussed, which I think could be helpful to other people, are one thing is think about the dynamics of the company or organization you're applying with. So if you're applying within an organization for a job with an organization that you know to be politically liberal leaning or left leaning, if you know that that company really gets behind and even puts money behind social justice issues, like something like Starbucks, for example, or Target, then if you're applying with one of those sorts of organizations and you are certain that they outright support a lot of diversity and inclusion efforts and really just are supportive in that way, then disclosing that you are transgender and putting your pronouns on your resume should cause no problems for you. But just keep in mind, there's always that human element. And I don't care if people can say all day long that they don't discriminate. I'm a recruiter. I don't discriminate. I'm a hiring manager. I don't discriminate. I don't believe you because I've seen it happen way too often when discrimination does happen. And it's always masked in something else, like, well, we just felt like we wanted to pursue a candidate that was a better fit for this role. Or we're looking for someone with more experience, or we aren't going to be able to bring you on board at this time. You're told all these bland, generic things, but really behind the surface, it can be that you have been discriminated against because of what you chose to disclose. So what I would tell this person and told them, and what I've told all the other people who ask me about other sensitive things is, if you choose to disclose it, you need to know that it could lead to discrimination about you not getting another interview or not getting the job or getting offered less money or being the one who needs to stay late every night because you disclose that you aren't married and that you don't have children. And so they just assume that you have no life and you want to stay late, which is totally unfair. But I'm just telling you that stuff happens. So when you disclose personal information that your employer cannot legally ask you, understand that you open yourself up to discrimination every time. No matter what the company policy is and the EEOC and the Office of Civil Rights and all that stuff, it just still happens and it's very masked. And we all know it happens. So let's be realistic. Another example of that would be with religion. And I have I've worked with candidates and job seekers on sort of both ends of the spectrum of this, like some who have a very active spiritual life, but they would never talk about that in an interview. No matter what, they would never disclose it voluntarily. If they were asked about it, they would just kind of tiptoe around it and then probably would back out of the process because they know that if they're asking an illegal interview question, then it's not someone they want to work for. They really just keep their spiritual life totally separate from their work life at all times. Now, on the other end, I have worked with job seekers who, and some of these are like very sought after candidates, like an engineer with years of experience and who professes to be of a certain faith or religious ideology and doesn't mind to come out and tell you that. It's all over his social media, and he is very actively involved in lots of face-to-face volunteer and service projects with his faith group. And he has done a lot of community involvement type work that he wants to list on his resume. And so I just have the discussion with him about it, like the same kind of thing. If you choose to disclose your religious affiliation, it could lead to discrimination. And you might never know that that's what's happening because you just don't get to move on to the next stage, and they'll give you some bland statement about how they're looking for somebody who's a better fit. And you have no idea what that really means, and they can't get in trouble for that. So, but then what he said to me, which is what I hear a lot, is that's okay. If it causes them to not choose me, then that's not where I want to be. And it's important enough to me that I feel like I want to put it out there so that they know upfront what they're getting. And if they're not okay with that, then I don't want to be part of it either. And then I'm like, great, if that's how you feel, then that's cool. But as long as you know what you're doing. And so I would say that same exact thing that candidate said to me to the other candidate who was asking me about the transgender issue and whether or not to list pronouns and stuff, which is, if that's something that is you are willing to walk away if you feel discriminated against and you wouldn't want to work for a company that had an issue with it anyway, then put it out there. But just make that decision ahead of time of, like, basically it's a question of how bad do you need a job right now? How bad do you need this job? How bad do you want this job? And you need to weigh those things and figure them out so that when you decide to disclose something very sensitive or personal, that you are willing to deal with the outcome, whatever the outcome is. Hopefully this helps somebody who's kind of struggling with that, because I know that that's a big sticking point for a lot of people, a lot of job seekers. And there's a lot of uncertainty, and we hear a lot of things about diversity and inclusion and how the world's just this great, welcoming, big kumbaya place. But I don't believe that. I believe that there's still a lot of discrimination happening, and I know it because I worked with a lot of candidates who are looking for a new job because they're experiencing it right now in the workplace. If you have questions about career coaching, interview coaching, how to develop soft skills or anything of that nature, you can reach out to me at bethanywallacego.com.